If you've ever thought about traditional publishing for your beautiful children's book, then this video is an absolute must. We will look at the three main things traditional publishers really want us authors to know. And we'll look at the myth as to whether or not traditional publishers actively shy away from authors who have previously published their own books. So let's jump right in. Hi there, I'm Eevi, an award-winning children's author and ghostwriter over on eevijones.com and the creator of Children's Book University. I create videos specifically for children's authors, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of my videos. A really quick but very important side note here is that in this video I am really just talking about traditional publishing only. I am not talking about hybrid publishing or vanity publishing. The main difference here is that traditional publishers would never ask authors to pay for their book to be published. That's a very important distinction. I have a whole separate video on vanity publishers and publishing scams and what to look out for, so I made sure to share the link to that video in the description below. Now, even though the majority of my own children's books are published under my very own imprint, I love remaining curious and enjoy learning about anything that has to do with publishing, including the different ways and methods we can go about publishing our beautiful books. So this past week, I ventured out to New York City to attend an event all about traditional publishing. I spoke with literary agents, editors of publishing houses, as well as traditionally published authors to learn about their experiences. So what are the three main things we as children's authors need to know about traditional publishing as it is today? The number one thing publishers want us to know is that having a platform may not mean what we currently think it means. One of the biggest takeaways from meeting with these publishers is all about an author's social media following. Having a platform is so much more than just a social media following. Something we often hear over and over again and that discourages so many of us is that if we want to secure a book deal with a publisher, we need a large following on social media. Now, while this may have been true and helpful in the past, publishers have come to understand that a large following over on social media doesn't necessarily translate into sales. So while the number of followers and subscribers still counts to some extent, what publishers are more interested in is people's engagement and that they are the right kind of followers, that is, the buying kind. Because just because someone hits the subscribe button over on TikTok or Instagram doesn't mean that they are also interested in buying their book, right? For example, looking at my Instagram, I am currently following around 1,300 people. Would I automatically purchase a book from every single one of these people if they were to publish a book tomorrow? No, right? But if a person I'm currently subscribed to would start selling a cookbook, for example, the likelihood of me buying their cookbook is much higher if A, I began following this person because I already knew that they were planning to write this cookbook, and I really love and value this person's recipes and their cooking style already. Or B, if I am already interested in cooking and I love trying new recipes in the first place. If, however, I started following this person because of their funny jokes and skits and they out of the blue bring out a cookbook, I am probably not going to purchase it because that's simply not something I am interested in. That's not why I followed them, right? And that's what publishers have learned over the years. The number of followers does not necessarily equal the number of sales. So what does this mean for us authors? How can we use this knowledge? Let's look at two different scenarios. One where we already have a following, but this following is not based on our book. And two, where we don't have a following as of yet. So for the first scenario, let's say I am a doctor, which I am not, and a mental health advocate, and I really have a strong following on social media where people started following me because of my mental health advice. Let's also say that it's always been a dream of mine to write a book about confidence, specifically for teenage girls. So I write my book, The Girl That Makes Mistakes, Growing Confidence One Day at a Time, that does exactly that. Now, this is an actual book of mine. Now, instead of simply sharing with my audience that I have written this book and that I would like them to buy it, what I will want to do is connect and bridge this gap between why these subscribers followed me in the first place and why they should be buying this book. For example, I could share that mental health challenges in girls, such as anxiety and depression, are often closely linked to a lack of confidence. These issues can create a negative feedback loop where mental health struggles undermine self-esteem, leading to further psychological distress. For instance, depression can sap motivation and a sense of self-worth, making it really difficult for girls to view themselves positively or to take risks necessary for personal growth. And so addressing these mental health challenges is crucial for fostering confidence and helping girls achieve their full potential. This is me bridging this gap, showing how my book is relevant to my subscribers' interest in mental health. To make it more personal, I could share that I wish I had a book like this growing up and that confidence was one of my biggest struggles, which it was. And I could share that each page shows an illustration of a different girl, symbolizing that they are not alone in whatever they are going through, that there are others out there who share the same fears, setbacks, and struggles in life, but that with encouraging words, grit, and determination, they too can get through this. These are actually the exact words from a beautiful review that this book received over on Amazon. Thank you so much, Karen. If now my followers, 1, subscribed to me because they know I speak about mental health, and 2, they have a teenage girl in their life, the likelihood of them purchasing my book is much higher than if I would have pitched them my book out of the blue without bridging this gap beforehand. So we need to first warm up our audience. Before we can sell others our beautiful children's book, we first need to weave our book into our regular content. Now let's look at the second scenario where we don't have a following as of yet. Here, the goal is to build an audience that will be interested in our beautiful children's book. Here, it really helps to redefine the meaning of an author's platform. This is my favorite ninja tip for you in this video because this was one of my biggest takeaways. When publishers talk about an author's platform, they no longer just mean the number of current followers. Instead, I now think of it as the potential reach our book may have. What do I mean? If my children's book is, let's say, about acorns, my potential target audience may be quite small because not too many are looking for a children's book specifically about acorns, right? If, on the other hand, my book is about pugs, the pool of potential buyers becomes much bigger. Not only because there are very passionate pug lovers out there, but also because there are more general dog lovers out there as well. So the potential reach, the net we can cast marketing-wise, is much wider. So getting grown-ups who are ultimately the buyers of our books, getting them interested in our children's book is a whole lot easier if our book has something that I have been teaching for years, and that is a built-in audience. When I heard one of the publishers mention this, I got really excited, and that's because I have separate videos that help us with just that, including my Your Story Idea videos that have been helping fellow children's authors for years to weave a built-in audience into their beautiful stories, all with the goal in mind to make the selling and marketing of our books so much easier. So I made sure to include those links in the description below. The second thing publishers want us to know is that competing books are a good thing. Something I hear all the time is that someone has a great idea for a children's book, but then feels really discouraged when they see that there are already existing books with a similar storyline or purpose. Here, publishers tell us that competitors, that is similar books, aren't a bad thing. In fact, that's something publishers are looking for. So what does this mean for us authors? How can we use this knowledge? Here we will really want to look at what's already out there. We will want to actively look at competing books, because by being able to show that there are already books on a particular topic that are selling well, and the selling well here is really the key, we are showing that there is an interest and a market for a book like ours, and that's exactly what publishers want. But at the same time, we will also want to show that our book is different, because we don't need more of the exact same, right? What different angle or different spin can we bring to the already existing table? So while similar idea-wise, what is it that makes our story unique? Now, if there are no competing books and nothing at all that is similar to our book, that doesn't necessarily mean that our book isn't worth publishing, because there will always have to be a first, right? So if that is the case, we will really need to show why people would want this book. Here we would have to prove that there is a huge need, that there is currently a gap, and that our book can fill that gap. So if there is a hidden market for our book, we will want to show that. And the third thing publishers want us to know is that as the author, it is my job to sell my book, not the publishers. This one is huge. This is still one of the biggest misconceptions about traditional publishing, that when we get a publishing deal, that the publisher will take care of the marketing. The publishers I talked to were very honest and open about this. Publishers will no longer pay for our marketing. In fact, they will actively funnel their very limited financial resources to those who they believe are the most promising in terms of book sales. Unfortunately, this often seems to be those who don't really need the help in the first place, like celebrities, for example. So what does this mean for us authors? How can we use this knowledge? It means that if we want to attract a publishing deal, we will have to be more proactive than ever. We as the authors will have to be the ones providing a vehicle to help the publisher move our book. Our attitude toward marketing is so important. Here we will want to really think outside the box. How can we as the author get our book into the right hands? What events that are relevant to my book topic am I planning to attend? What people could I collaborate with? How can I increase my following? How can I engage my following? In short, how am I as the author planning to sell my book? These are the things we would want to plan on sharing with a potential publisher whenever we are sharing our manuscript. And the more detailed we can be here, the better. Now that we have looked at the three main things traditional publishers really want us authors to know, let's take a look at the myth as to whether or not traditional publishers actively shy away from authors who have previously published their own books. Will self-publishing hurt our chances of getting traditionally published later on? That's a question I get asked all the time. And the short answer here is no. Not at all. Not according to the publishers I was able to meet. In fact, if we self-publish our book and it does really well, this would actually be a selling point we could bring up whenever we do decide to approach a traditional publisher. As I said before, in the end, it's all about the numbers. And if we can prove and show that we can sell books, then that's something publishers will most definitely take into consideration. So if that's something that has been holding you back from publishing your beautiful book independently, I hope that I was able to alleviate these concerns. We as authors have more options than ever when it comes to the publishing of our beautiful book for little ones. The most important part during the decision-making process is to keep an open mind and to learn as much as possible about each of our different options. So I really hope that with this video, I was able to shed a bit of light onto the traditional world of publishing by sharing information with you that comes directly from traditional publishers. If you found this helpful, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't yet. It really encourages me to keep making free videos for you just like this one. Here's to always remaining curious. Bye!